You into this thing. And we are live this time, on target, I think, and generally in good condition here. Okay, so let's see. Top of the hops. Oh, hey, you got
Hey, look
yours.
at us.
I got
There it
mine.
is.
Nice. Oh, that's good. Okay. Um, so what I've got is what is it, June 11th, 4 days after D-Day. Kind of a big day for freedom everywhere. Let's see. Onocoy, they are live on Borgpad, so they are coming up to their TGE. They're doing a bunch of pushes on that. If you want to get in on the community sale and vouch support, I meant to put the link in there, but I didn't. If you can't find it, you probably can't do it anyway because it's pretty easy to find. It's on any Twitter thing anywhere. But what we're seeing there is, yeah, they're actually doing much better on communicating what's going on and yeah, driving down the line. In anyone land, they announced they're live on Peaq. They whitelisted on Stargate. So that's pretty cool. It's always good to see all the different projects building. Helium came out with Messari came out with a big report, and Helium has retweeted it. And I think the takeaway there is all numbers are up. That's the big picture. I'm not sure about the smaller picture, and I'm not sure what the fuck is going on with this goddamn um, background here. But I may have to fix that some other time. Let's see. In Hivemapper land, what did I see from RAL? They've got this Maxar partnership with satellite intelligence. So again, good to see DeepIn's building and coordinating with other projects in the real world. DIMO has had a pretty, I don't know if contentious is the right word, but they launched this subscription model. A lot of people don't seem super psyched on it. It's not really my problem. I bought a DIMO unit super early on. It never worked with my car. I didn't really care about it that much. I was like, hey, this is a cool thing. I'll support them by buying their hardware. But my car's an electric car, and it's one of like, I don't know, like 500 Volkswagen e-Golfs that were ever made. They were just made as like a sop to the requirement to produce an vehicle and to get Volkswagen into California. And so like nothing works with it. There's no great interoperability. So in Demoland, they launched a subscription model. I thought the funny thing, I was just listening to the AMA, and I think as Rob was saying, the more cars leave, the higher the rewards per user. I'm not sure that's a super persuasive thing for the project in general, but for individual users, that's pretty awesome. In Wingbits, I think the thing here was they were talking about being at the Vietnam SolanaSummit. And really the thing here is, look, deepens in APAC and Asia Pacific region are going to be a pretty big deal. In the US, we tend to think of the US as basically encompassing the globe, but actually it doesn't. There are lots of other countries out there, lots of other people. And as those people find out about Deepin, and especially as those people find out about Deepin and the rewards there are much higher than you would relative to income than they are here, I think that thing's going to take off. So pretty interesting to see Deepin in APAC. And if you want to buy deepinapac.com, I'm sure someone will want to buy it from you at some point. But it's not, I mean, you're not going to be buying it from me. I've got enough of these goddamn domains. In Spexi land, I saw that payouts are from 500 to 1,000 bucks a week for drone pilots who hustle. So if you're a drone pilot and you're willing to hustle and you're near these Spexi places, 500,000 weeks to 500 to 1,000 bucks a week to fly your drone seems like a pretty good deal. I'll try not to die in this thing. I was super sick last week, but rallied back. And then let's see, WeatherXM, they're looking for deployers in the global south. So if you have places in the global south where you can deploy, and actually if you also have places in APAC where you can deploy, hit me up. I've got a project that is looking for places in there. So yeah, do all that stuff. Let's see, MeteoScientific. The big news is we released this parking.paleotreats.com. So the link is down in the description. Yeah, that was a super fun project to build, and we could talk a little bit about that. I've got another project coming up after that one with the T1000. And then 619 OTA dropped off a Karrier One unit at the Paleo Treat shop. So at some point, I'll plug that in and just see what the workflow is like. I don't know much about those guys. I think I met the dude in an elevator once. No lie. And yeah, that's the news. I think we got everything done in under 5 minutes. Joey, what's going on, dog?
Parking.paleotreats.com. Like you said, MeteoScientific.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, parking.paleotreats.com. I should probably pull
Yep.
it up on here, but I always fuck everything up when I'm trying to do extra screens. So, yeah,
It's
what's the
pretty.
haps with
It's
you, dude?
it's got the whole Paleo Treats vibes. I love it. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I was excited earlier this week to see you land that. It is basically that whole sauna sensor, just vibe code, throw something together in a weekend and
Yeah.
make
Yeah, I was
make the
totally thinking of
LLMs
you.
work for you. Yeah. Yeah.
I will,
Um,
I'll actually see if I can
yeah,
pull it
let's
up.
see. What's the big news on my end here? I gotta think for a
You had
second.
I wouldn't say a contentious call, although I'm liking that word right now. On the IoT working group where people are super pissed that there's not enough marketing going into IoT. And I think your
Oh yeah.
response was like, hey, listen, IoT is actually working. So it doesn't need a ton of marketing right now, and mobile needs to work. And so that's why the marketing goes in there. And that seemed like logical. I'm sure that's going to piss some people off, but that seemed pretty reasonable to me. Was there anything else that you had on that topic?
Yeah, I mean, when you're doing marketing, we constantly find people just get really confused if we were to land some like IoT comms and then some mobile comms. And we were doing that for a while. And people go and buy a mobile hotspot and they're like, well, I thought this was for package tracking. And I'm like, no, that's that's a different thing. And so it becomes really challenging trying to get people to think about deploying hotspots in that way. Um, and conversely, like to build solutions on the network, if all of the other comms are about deploying mobile hotspots, it gets confusing again. So, we look at the IoT network as basically built, right? Like there's businesses out there doing stuff on it. There's new customers signing up every week. The data credit usage is generally trending up, although it's been a little flat for the last couple of months. Um, but the conversations there are positive. People look at it seriously. So it's kind of all of the things that we want to be checking in that regard are generally positive. Yeah, obviously things could always be better. I'd love to see 100,000 gateways going on a week or whatever. But the mobile network needs that energy. And so that's where focus is. And so when people are talking about, oh, you guys only post about mobile, yeah, that's generally true. Um, I I've heard, internally, like one pitch that we should sort of do our comms in proportion to the protocol score or something, just like some metric to lock it into.
Mm-hmm.
It gets, it comes back to that confusing piece. I think there is probably more that we could be doing in, promoting your parking sensor or, torch sensors or, that kind of stuff. Um, we've had some really fun ideas that they're pretty big, heavy lifts, and so we end up prioritizing tooling over the marketing. But
Mm-hmm.
in the World Explorer, one of the things that I really, really want to do one of these days, and we'll get to it, but is to litter the map with case studies. And so there would be a pin on paleo treats that says, check out this parking sensor that was built on the Helium network. There'd be a pin in Portugal talking about, green metrics guys or, heliotics doing cool stuff in parks. And so that would be one of those ways for people to jump in and see, the Helium world and start to discover the stuff that people are doing. But again, it just comes back to that clarity and focus that we're trying to make sure that we're on.
Dig it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all seems pretty reasonable to me.
Yeah.
And I
And
always come back to this thing
I
where it's
like
like, good.
but I guess the valuable part is the community asking those questions, right? And that's where the IoT working group is valuable. And like we haven't really talked about that thinking before.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think Miroslav at Heliotics, and he's like, hey, I want to see more action going through for IoT. And then I thought I had this original idea, and it turns out everybody's already thought of this 1,000 times before. But it's like, hey, we should do the amount of what is it, like the revenue split? Whatever the split is between the two networks, that's how the marketing
Yeah,
should
the,
go.
the network protocol score. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you're like, oh, you idiot. Advice thought about that fucking 6 years ago before this thing existed.
He's always ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, I love it. I have some idea, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I told you that like 2 years ago." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's
He's a
right."
smart
Yeah.
fella.
Yep. Um, so yeah, I mean, if people have ideas, they generally know where to find me. Just keep building cool shit, and then it gives us more stuff to post. That's maybe the most important thing to say.
All right, well let's talk about this
Yeah.
then. Let's see. So it's
Yeah.
at 9 o'clock in the morning right now, on the West Coast where I am, And so I would expect it's Tuesday. So neither Lee nor I will go in there until about 2 o'clock. So this little guy at the bottom probably won't change until 2. But one interesting piece here is that it updated at 11:46 in the PM last night. And so this is like,
Well,
geez, annoying.
tell me what the update logic is here. How's this thing firing off?
Okay, so this is an in-ground Fleximoto sensor. So you drive the car over it. Unless you're looking for it, you're not going to see it. It's I dug a little hole in the asphalt and buried this thing in there, and it just senses whether or not there's a car above it or not. And when the status changes, this vacancy changes, or this part changes from vacant to occupied. So the
Cool.
idea
So
was,
it's
go ahead.
real. It's like it's literally real time as a car drives over it. It's going to be like, "Hello, there's somebody here."
Yep,
Got it. Okay.
yep. And I think it. Let's see, Bradley Azago, what's the website made by Vercel or something? I just made, so the way that I've been doing this, Bradley, is I start off in lovable.dev and I'll describe what I want. Actually, usually I start off with ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. I want to do this parking thing, whatever. Like, what are the elements that I need to consider? And I'll go back and forth with ChatGPT and just make sure I'm not missing anything big. Usually it injects something that is like really cool, but 2 or 3 years old. It doesn't seem to have the latest technology, which is a well-known thing, but it'll get me kind of started in the right direction. And then lately I've been saying, hey, can you give me the architecture for this site? What are the pieces I need to put together? And then I'll end up on ChatGPT with asking for, hey, can you write me a prompt that will deliver the front end of this site? And then I'll take that prompt and I'll go to lovable.dev and say, hey, I want a site for paleo treats. The main color is pink, which is this, whatever it is, 00F274, some Pantone color. And I want to display what's happening with this parking sensor that is from Fleximoto. And then I want a bunch of other stuff on here that shows, like a bunch of fun stuff. What I do for a living is I teach people about IoT sensors. So I want this to be kind of a demonstration piece. And then Lovable and I will go back and forth and figuring out like, all right, what do we want to do? How do we want to make it work? Like sometimes this fucking thing is not working right now. This should be a heat map of when it's happening. And I think what's happened is it's updated. And I'll say,
Mm.
I want these different stats. So show me the sensor stats, show me the car stats, et cetera, et cetera. And then put in a couple fun things at the bottom. So that's like the big kind of picture on the thing. And then once I've got it the way I want it looking in Lovable, then I'll pull it into Cursor. And on this case, just on my Mac, if I'm going to do some stuff with local LLMs, I'll put into Monstra, which is my local magic machine for massive GPU stuff. And by massive, like not that big, but bigger than a regular computer. And then I'll just go back and forth with Cursor a bunch saying, hey, this is what I want. Now we've got to hook everything up on the back end. And so on the front end, this is all stuff built by Lovable. And on the back end, everything is hosted on the free tier of Cloudflare, which I think is something I'm going to be spending not a lot more time on, but more time on for sure, because I don't think people understand just how powerful Cloudflare is at the level of small business, which is what Paleo Treats is. It does a $250,000 a year gross. Like it's a tiny little business. And so for that size business, you can't say, hey, we're going to hire an IoT solutions architect. But what you can do is you can say, hey, I'll go copy this thing. Like this is all open on GitHub. You can go look at the Gristle King GitHub and look at, I think the repo's PT parking. And you can just copy this thing for yourself, change the colors, put in your own sensor, and everything generally will work. You'll need some futzing around with it. But yeah, that's the idea.
That, yeah, it's perfect. I think the cool thing following your process there is I think my process is entirely different. But with the LLMs, as long as you're communicating well enough, it's probably going to mostly work. Um, so it's like, I like to give the short version of my process. I will
Yep.
usually go to ChirpStack. I will take a payload, and then I'll go to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever. Um, Say I want to build a dashboard. I'm monitoring a temperature sensor. It's coming in from this HTTP endpoint, and here's a payload. And then I just say like, give me the whole thing, and
Oh, so you'll start
that's
with a,
that's it.
Jesus, you'll start with a payload.
Yeah, well, because it gives it a little bit of like understanding of the structure and the content that I'm working with straight out of the gate, and it can usually parse that and kind of understand. I'll tell it if I want to see metadata or if I really just want to see the payload or whatever.
Okay.
It's
So,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
interesting. I might need to do that on this next one. So this one, let's see if I can pull up Lovable, is something that Lee is, she's like, hey, I don't want to build this and make this public once it's working, just because there's a bunch of problems with customers seeing this stuff. But the idea is that we take a T1000 tracker, the sense cap, and we put it in every package that goes out from Payload Treats. None of this data is live, by the way. This is all just like fake Lovable data. And then we build a tracker so that we can see what's happening with our packages. Now, we've got a bunch of customers who are immune compromised and kind of high touch. And
Mhm.
for them, it becomes difficult for us to explain, hey, we've been doing this for, Jesus, 15 years. It's actually not a big deal if your package shows up and it's 65 degrees. Like, really, what we're doing is making sure your package stays as cold as long as possible to get to you. But these things are actually good for 10 days at room temp. And so Lee is concerned, and rightly so, that if people start seeing, like, oh, my package was 72, they'll freak out and think it's terrible for them. So I think
Mhm.
this will be more of like an internal tool. And right now, this is just, again, this is just like Lovable doing its thing. But the idea is that you can click on any package and see here's the current status. This is a LoRaWAN position versus a GNSS position. So basically, this would be the closest gateway. When you click that, that is the thing that pulses on the map. And then there'll be a map behind this. So I'll host a map on the R2, I think it's R2 objects on Cloudflare.
Mhm.
And I'm going to build this because I want to find out. I think it's correct, but I'm not sure. But I'm pretty sure that you can build a functioning free map tracking system on Cloudflare for up to about 100 packages a month if they're all transmitting at 30-minute intervals. And so that piece is pretty interesting because, for us to kind of go back to the small business thing, um, you can take a look at these and say, hey, a small business might not be able to hire an IoT solutions architect, but it could copy a GitHub repo and change the colors and put in its own logo and then have its own mapping system. And so I
Yeah.
think of this as like for the price of hardware, all of a sudden you can have a pretty technologically advanced ability to sense the world.
And then it's super clean too. If you go over that, it doesn't really get drastically more expensive either. Like I kind of love that about cloud. It turns into like $5 a month or a couple
Oh,
bucks a
really? I
month.
haven't even looked at
Like
the costing part.
yeah, yeah. Once you dip over that free tier, it's not like because like Mapbox, for instance, you go from free tier into like paid, at least for Helium at the scale we were doing for maps, like it got bonkers. They were in the tens of thousands. Um,
Yeah, and I think
but
that's the thing for like track pack. Like if you're going to do this for 1,000 packages, then you should go hire an IoT solutions or hire like a partner who's going to
Mhm.
do that and who's going to have the networking and the ability to fix the problems when they happen. But if you're a smaller company, like some of the stuff I'm looking at now, and this is, I mean, Joey, we've talked a little bit about this. This idea that maybe MeteoScientific ends up just helping businesses do LoRaWAN stuff. Um, that becomes something where, let me see if I can get this out of the way for now. I'll just leave this up here. That becomes something where I can go to the local business owners association and make give a presentation and say, look, here's what you can do. If you can copy
Mhm.
paste and use ChatGPT, you can use this same thing for you. And then it becomes your imagination becomes the limiting factor because once I show you how to do it, you can do it for yourself, and that's fantastic for budget-minded business owners. Or maybe they end up paying me a couple $1,000 here and there to do this for them, or they end up, I refer them on to Neil for tracking if they want to track packages all over San Diego, and it's more than 100 packages.
Mhm.
Um, but it
Yeah.
ends up being this piece where it's like
Or
super
it's
cool.
like, or you can walk into the presentation with the fully functioning thing. It's probably going to have some bugs or whatever, but you say like, yeah, here's the idea, right? Instead of like hand waving around something, you can be like, here, it's working. Imagine this strapped to your package, and then you're yeah,
Yeah,
to the
and that's, I mean,
races.
that is definitely like the method of presentation that I'll use at the next Adams Avenue Business Association. So for anyone watching, that's what you're going to see.
So it's coming.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, for like the
Uh,
50 businesses that show up there.
I wanted to add one thing. Like you were talking about sort of the stack that you're using with Lovable.dev and Cloudflare and sort of the various pieces. There's probably a good time for me to give a shout out for Val.town.
Oh, you love
Hashtag
that thing.
sponsored because, well, yeah, they sent me a hat, so now I have to disclose that I'm a sponsored influencer.
Yeah, I think
Um,
I'm supposed to disclose all kinds of stuff here, and I
so
always just forget.
the hat and a candy bar. That's what they sent me.
Ooh, there you go.
Um, Uh,
And you're
but
using
I've
val.town. Let me go look at that.
yeah, val.town. But the cool thing is it puts everything all together. So they have a thing called Townie. It's
Okay.
their LLM agent. And so I can go and do that thing that I mentioned of like throw in the payload, tell it what I want, and it'll build the front end, it'll build the back end, it'll build the ingest, it'll build the processing. The whole thing gets stood up immediately. And so I did that for like a balloon tracker thing as a demo to some folks. What is it? Yeah, I threw a couple of things together. I sent them a package and had it tracked, stuff like that. Um, so that's another good way to sort of jump in and start playing around with this stuff.
Huh. Oh, I mean, let's try it. Just me. That's my company. Through Joey Hiller. There we go.
Are you
Complete
signing
setup.
up right now?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I gave away any top secret information. I probably did. Some asshole's going to
Yeah.
hack me and steal all my shitty LLM code. Good luck. Cool. Okay. So there's something to mess with. Let's see.
Mhm.
What is 619 talking about? What are we doing here? Hit the like, and while you're at it, like this tweet. Paradox. Oh, is
He's
this six
he's got some crazy off-grid thing going here.
619's off-grid tweet? Yeah. Maybe I can bring that up since
He's
we're.
going to break down everything. I see some GeoNet. I see some, well, WeatherXM, of course. Some can-looking antenna. I'm guessing maybe Helium antenna up there.
Oh my God, can I
Another
not
box.
copy that thing? HTTPS. All right. X. I'll figure this out, not XX. Thank God nothing came up on that URL.
Careful.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. I think whatever he's doing, support it. Dude's rad.
Yeah, I'll go smash the like after this. I'm not
Yeah.
logged in on this machine.
I don't see how I can click this goddamn thing in the comments, but maybe it's because I'm not watching the actual video. GeoNet,
Oh, I
WeatherXM,
copy
AT&T.
pasted. It wouldn't let me click either. Oh no, it
Okay.
did let me click. I don't know.
Cool. Super cool.
Who
We got to
knows?
get an Onocoy up there, dude. We got to get you running. And I think there's some stuff on how to use GeoNet with Onocoy, but GeoNet doesn't like that at all. Obviously, they're competitors. You can find that stuff. I think Simon on Security has published something about that. The
Mhm.
super cool thing that I found about Onocoy is that once you get the hardware, and I definitely got sponsored there, or they sent me this free Mosaic X5, which is fucking rad of them, of SparkFun, is you can just create your own stream. So you don't need to do anything with anybody. You can just run your own piece. Let's just DIMO rugged. I don't think they rugged. I think they changed a little bit, and they're probably not doing a great job of explaining it, or it's just something
I,
that's a change and they had to do it.
I think it's one of those things that they changed. Some folks didn't like it, and then the whole narrative blew up outside their control.
That never happens. Come
Classic.
on. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, my understanding, I haven't followed it too closely, but
Hmm.
like each demo device came with like 1 year of coverage or 3 years of coverage.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And so they just announced what it's going to be after that coverage ends. And so that's my take, but I could be wrong.
What is up,
And
Jeremy?
and
Yeah, I
my,
think you're right.
yeah,
And I think that the funny thing is that the same stuff will happen with WeatherXM because they purchased something like 2 or 3 years of data credits for their weather stations up front. And I think,
Mhm.
I mean, everybody thinks ahead, but not everybody thinks ahead 5 years, or like sometimes you just can't think that far ahead or you can't plan for that far ahead because it's too many variables. But at some point, they're going to have to stop covering their DC burn and pass it on to the customers. And I'm sure at that point, customers are not going to be psyched.
Yeah. Well, and I wouldn't be surprised to see an option to like pay for the service with your tokens that you earn or, something like that. Um, that's exactly what the Helium mobile free plan is, by the way. Like there's base cost there that Nova carries, but
Yeah.
then it becomes a profitable line of business because of the whole crypto side of it.
Yeah. Coverage doesn't cost $10 a month. No, that's true. Although Frodobots, I bought a data sim for them, and the cheapest sim that I could find that would work regularly was $15 a month for Mint Mobile, and that's only for the first 3 months, and then they shove you on to a more expensive plan. So I'm sure it doesn't cost $10 a month, especially if you're buying it in bulk. But at the same time, like, hey, they're running a business. I'm sure they're providing a bunch of free extra data. I don't know. I find it really hard to kind of find fault with a lot of the founders who are doing the best they can and just dealing with the real world. And in that, I would put DIMO and Hivemapper and Helium, GeoNet, Onocoy, anyone. Like they're all trying to figure this stuff out, and the expectation that they get it perfectly and match everybody's demands, desires is ridiculous. So as long as they're not doing like super crooked shit, um, I've got a lot of
True. Yeah.
got a leeway for them.
Yep.
Let's see.
We
Helium mobile hotspot channel selection and TX settings are pretty poor in my opinion, especially 5 gig, 80 megahertz wide bonds on common amateur
probably
mistake.
a little heavy technical for this, but
Yeah,
yeah, the channel selection is something we've been looking into. So for folks that don't know,
I
your
don't know. Yeah.
Wi-Fi,
What's Joe
yeah,
talking
like
about?
there, yeah, this is like tiers of technical. It's not just like, blasting out, quote unquote Wi-Fi, right? Like there's a bunch of channels. Each region has channels. This is much like LoRaWAN for, actually the way it works. You have all your bands, subband 8 channel gateway, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yep.
Um, so yeah, the chips for Wi-Fi do effectively the same thing. They auto negotiate to figure out which band they should be sitting on. Um, some do it better than others. The Helium mobile hotspots aren't doing it particularly well right now. So you'll notice this in settings. Like if you go into a venue and they're all on channel 9 or 10, I don't know, I forget what this like sort of common one is there. It might also try to sit on that channel, and then you see interference and decreased bandwidth and problems there.
Yeah.
Um, so
Wait, so you're
that's
telling me you didn't get a global rollout of consumer grade hardware perfect for carrier grade service out of the gate? That's so weird. That's
yeah.
really hard to
I
believe that
mean,
you guys just didn't get that fucking perfectly done, and that you made mistakes.
well, to
I'm
talk about not
disappointed.
perfect, like we're dealing with so there's a firmware update that has affected a number of devices. I think we're looking at 800, maybe 1200 or so gateways that are not reporting. So Keenan is sort of leading comms for us on that front. So a bunch of folks would have gotten a push notification to their Builder app yesterday that led them into the status page. There'll probably be another update either today or tomorrow or possibly
Wait,
later this week.
what should I do on the Builder app? Because I'll just do it right now.
Basically, just go and check, make sure your hotspots are working. If they are not working, you can
I've,
try a power cycle.
okay, I
And
did.
then,
One of them is not working, and I did a reboot last night, but that doesn't seem to have done it.
yeah. So if all else fails, and if you the best final option on your front is to
Mm-hmm.
go and do a physical power cycle,
Okay.
which sucks. Like we do not want to see that, right?
No.
Some people have to go drive and figure this stuff out. Um, but if all else fails, the support team is fully briefed and has a process around trying to do some remote recovery.
Okay.
Um, worst case scenario, they'll swap a hotspot or they'll do a repair. So um, yeah, there's a whole process stood up to make sure that's as smooth as it can be, and then a lot of brains going together to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Okay. Huh. Well, I think what I'll do is I will just power cycle mine right now because it's on a unified port, and it's like, hey, you do
Oh,
what
I
I
love that.
say.
That's what I did. Yeah, I had one. I had one that wasn't doing too much. I find the reset button on the unified dashboard maybe doesn't power off long enough. So what I'll actually go and do is turn PoE off, wait a couple of seconds, and then go turn PoE back on that port.
Huh.
So
I'm just gonna
it's
hit the
in
power
those
cycle button.
settings. Yeah. So if that doesn't work, try the other thing.
This will temporarily turn off PoE on port 2. The powered device will restart. Okay. Let's see what happens.
It's magical. I love it. So
It is
cool to be
pretty
able to
cool.
do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any I could probably share this stupid screen again if I can remember how to do it. Beep beep beep. Overlay. There it is. Screen share. This one? Yeah. Yeah, so it's on port 2 and I power cycled it. So I guess it'll come back up in a second. Badass. And we'll see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which
Well,
one
so
was
that's
that?
done.
Was that out at the shop or at
That's
the
at the
coffee
shop, yeah.
shop or yeah.
Yep. that's at Paleo Treats. There's far more stuff on my on my house, but I
Sorry, eat in
unfortunately
test
put.
bed, basically.
Yeah, it is. There's a ton of stuff. Let's see what's going on with not another 22. Not what we signed up for. You're not happy about DIMO, and you're not happy about Hivemapper. I don't think you're right here, to be honest with you, because you said does do crooked, super crooked shit. I don't think they do. I think they're a business figuring stuff out, and I think anyone.
Wait, that could be. Oh, it does. I see the
Yeah,
asterisk
yeah.
does.
He put this does in here.
Yeah,
I think the thing here is, and I think you're wrong on this too. I just don't think that those guys are going to lay over and die. They might go back and say like, all right, we're going to fix this. They might figure out their messaging and get that better. But I think one of these things to think about here, and this in part comes from having run my own business for a long time, is that there's just all these things that come up that you have to figure out on the fly, and customers don't always understand the entire context. I'll give you a great example from Paleo Treats. Is we had a baker making our treats for years. It's a third party thing, so it's pretty common in the business where you have a recipe. You're not going to make it in your kitchen, and so you go, but you don't have enough to go and buy your own building and build your own kitchen. And for whatever reason, you don't want to rent a kitchen and make it yourself, which is actually what we ended up doing. But in the meantime, and for years, we had contracted the baking out to someone else. What we didn't realize was that person was making the treats about 20 to 30% larger than they were supposed to be. And we didn't pay attention because we're making a couple thousand of these things at a time. We're shipping them out all the time. It's hard to see a 20% increase on a treat that's, I don't know, like maybe this size, a little bit smaller. I mean, it's not impossible if you're paying attention, but we just frankly, we weren't paying attention. So eventually we catch it and we're like, hey, you got to make these things smaller. The baker's like, I can't do it. I'm moving too fast. And so we looked at 20% increase in ingredient cost is not a big deal 3 years ago when cacao butter was not that expensive, but it went up 384% in 2 years. And all of a sudden, a 20% increase on ingredients takes a lot of your profit out. And so we took the baking over ourselves, found a kitchen, et cetera, et cetera. And one of our customers writes in, they're like, hey, I noticed your banditos are a lot smaller.
shrinkflated them.
Yeah, that's exactly what they said. They accused us. They're like, "Oh, you guys, I get shrinkflation, but you're really like you're robbing the customers, and this is not what I'm paying for, et cetera, et cetera." Um, and it was like, "No, that's not what happened. Let me walk you through it." And I did, and they were still like, we're not sure if this is worth the value for money." And I'm thinking, our ingredients have gone up 384%. You're getting a 20% decrease. Like you're way the fuck ahead, and you got all these like good deals when we just weren't. We were basically asleep at the wheel on the sizing piece. And so I think from their perspective, they could be like, Paleo Treats is cheating us. These guys are fucking us over. Which I think not another 22 is kind of what's happening with you. My guess is that you don't have total internal visuals across the entirety of the business in DIMO or Hivemapper. And so it appears to you, and I think that's pretty reasonable that they're fucking you over. But my guess is they're not. They're trying to build a big long-term business and they have to make some decisions that not everybody's going to understand or appreciate. I could be wrong there. They could be crooked as fuck, but I don't think so. I've met those guys. I don't get the crooked vibe at all from any of them.
I
But yeah,
agree. I mean, like, I'll speak on behalf of like some of the decision making processes that go on for Helium. Um, Community is almost always at the forefront, and understand like that's what makes the whole thing work, right? Like it's either the subscribers on the phone plan or the deployers of the hotspots or the operators, the IoT hots, like whatever, right? And so you can't go rocking the boat there. And so you really, really, really like you really think like if I'm going to rock the boat at all, it's got to be worth it.
yeah,
Um, and so there's a lot of decisions, like there's a lot of ideas that just don't happen because it's like, no, that's going to be too disruptive. Or if something is like, oh, it's going to be disruptive, it's got to really be worth it. It's really got to like set the trajectory for like long-term success.
yeah.
Um,
I think this piece, I mean, Joe, you've been a really good advocate as far as like, hey, I want to know everything that's going on all the time. And certainly I would appreciate if you're more positive, but you're obviously super smart. And sometimes you're just more negative than I think is constructive. But you've got good questions, and this is one of them. Transparency is what we ask for. And I think I look at this, and instead of saying we're going for 100% transparency, which I don't think is realistic on businesses because A, there's too much information. And sometimes there's stuff where it's like, hey, you can't be transparent about this if you want to be competitive at all. Is I look
Mhm.
at compare Helium and their communication to AT&T. Compare them to Verizon. Compare them to T-Mobile. Compare them to any other fucking uh, network operator on the market. And it's like, oh, okay, I get it. Like they're being about as transparent as they can be. Um, and radically more transparent than any others. Now, is it perfect? No. Are they going to fuck things up? Yes. Do they make mistakes? 100%. But some of the stuff is just like, yeah, there's just kind of like ugly pieces of business that you just got to bulldog through and aren't super fun for anyone. But I don't think at the core that they're doing the wrong thing or going the wrong direction. But that's me.
Yeah.
So,
And like I don't know. It's that like assume best intentions thing that I had to have sort of like beaten into me years ago. It's like, oh
yeah.
man, they're and I know it would be like the company that I work for. I'd be like, ah, they're really trying to get me.
Yeah.
Um, but it's like, no, they're just trying to do the best thing. Like you got to choose the battle, and sometimes it's just like, yeah, go with it.
Yeah. And
Um,
I think, I mean, I thought Ariel has been doing this. Maybe I just haven't followed it closely enough on the Hivemapper side, which I think Joe is the most upset about Hivemapper, if I remember right. Um, and I felt like when I looked at his tweets, he was just kind of laying out down the line, being pretty transparent. Maybe I missed something and he flat out
mm,
lied a bunch of times. My guess is he just was fucking busy and trying to keep his business afloat. Um, and it could be that they're making
yeah.
mistakes. For example, why do bees make the same or even less in some cases in the HTC? Does this make sense? Like sometimes things don't make sense. Just like Lee and I laugh about this. My wife and I laugh about this at Paleo Treats is we'll go and look at another business, be like, oh, they should do this. They should do this. They're fucking this up. They're so bad.
Mm,
And we're like, man, there's a lot of stuff we're doing wrong at Paleo Treats. Like we should try and fix our own stuff before we go and point out where everyone else is fucked up.
yeah. But like the bees making the same as the HTC, I think that's a perfect example, right? Like
Okay.
if you're the owner of one of the bees, the new tier of their
Yep.
mapper thing, you're like, I should make more. I waited, I've paid for this thing.
Yeah.
Took like 2 years to get to me, whatever. But then if you're an HTC operator, you're like, I was here early, I've been contributing, like I'm still contributing. Like, why is my effort of driving around and doing the mapping worth any less, right? Like there's two sides of that thing.
Yeah.
And on the sort of like periphery, most of these guys are usually open to like seeing a proposal come up. And like at least in the case of
Oh, you
Helium,
can't be talking about
it's like,
asking people to do work, Joey. You just can't do it.
yeah, like you just throw the notes together, make a draft, somebody will run with it. If there's momentum, like you can get some other folks in there.
Yeah,
But that's like you can that's I think the coolest thing about Deepin is like if you feel passionate about it, you can go and impart that change. So um
yeah,
and if you're like understanding and whatever, like I'm sure Ari will basically sit down and write it with you. But if it's an adversarial thing, that's going to be a lot harder for him to like get on board. But
yeah, yeah.
anyway,
100% there. I mean, and that has been my experience too. Has been things in helium, and I talk about that because I know that the best. Where it's like I don't like that, but if I'm not willing to sit down and do the work and change it, then I also feel like I can't really bitch that much about it. Now, there's some pieces where you're like, hey, I bought this piece of hardware. I expect you to do something for me, but we're just in this different piece now where it's like this is this whole decentralized thing and you're getting
mhm.
to participate and you're getting rewarded like nothing else rewards. I've got this, I mean, I look at anything on my desk, this stupid fucking device here. I think this thing, god,
What
what
is
does it
that
do?
thing? Yeah.
It's a transmitter and a receiver for a
Oh, it's
XLR
not deep
microphone.
in. I was
No,
like,
it's not deep at all. It's by Sennheiser.
yeah,
um
yeah.
I spent a bunch of money on that a couple years ago. For whatever reason, it's not working right now. I've never had an expectation that those guys owe me anything beyond service in their first, whatever the 1 year hardware warranty.
Mm.
Um, and they've never offered to be like, hey, we see that you're using it and we could get data from that. We'd like to pay you. Like, that's never happened. I look around my desk at all the shit that's on here. Like, that just doesn't happen. So the expectation here is that in the world of Deepin, you're entering into this new business model where you're earning some amount of tokens for the data that you're producing or for the data stream or whatever it is, the information stream that you're producing.
Yeah.
Along with that will go complications and mistakes, but also enormous benefits. I think all of us who are watching this, and I know 619 and Joe and Keenan, like we were in Helium when Helium was earning a ton, and I don't remember anyone bitching about earning a shitload of tokens for doing stuff, especially in the early days of the network when there were 7,000 stations on the network when I started with Helium. There wasn't anyone bitching about like, oh, the IoT thing doesn't work. It was like, holy shit, this thing's making a boatload of fucking tokens. This is a pretty good deal. So I think we got to like set the expectations about like what you're participating in. I would call this like super high risk, super out there, super crazy.
Mm.
Don't have any expectations that anything will work other than just have a good time.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I remain pretty bullish on I've met the DIMO guys, of course. I've met the Hivemapper folks. Yeah, I have to imagine the move that DIMO's making, maybe they have some like big growth vector in front of them. Maybe they're starting to realize people would run these things just because it's a great car tracker and diagnostic tool.
Yeah.
Um, you know, maybe DePIN isn't really the like or the sorry, the crypto bubble is an opportunity for them to start breaking out of that and seeing more people. Who knows, right? Like so that's my assume best intentions. Hivemapper, I wish they would fully announce all of their customer list because I've seen some of them and I'm now blocked from trading and I want to go buy more. So um,
I don't think you can even say that. It's gonna have to delete this video
uh,
now. You're putting yourself in the
yeah,
spot here. Um,
yeah, it's
okay.
um,
So there's
so
that.
I mean, people are crushing. That's maybe the takeaway. They're
Yeah.
they're not sitting around waiting for stuff to happen.
No, no, yeah, I think the same thing as I've met all those folks, and I think I mean the nice thing is it's not special that you and I have met the owners of these companies. Like if you go to any of the events, you can meet any of the owners. I remember Amir walking around during the height of Helium kind of hatred in Austin when he had those massive security guards with him, the big Samoan dude and a couple
Mm.
other folks. And it's
Hmm.
like you could still walk up and talk to him. And you can't do that with Charlie Ergen, who's the head of what the fuck? Now I forget it. Not T-Mobile. One of the bigger telecom thing. Like you
Mm.
can't go meet that guy. You can't go walk onto that dude's private ranch and be like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about your crazy tower thing that you're trying to do, Charlie."
Hmm.
Like you won't get close. And I think that's the cool thing is I bet anything that a semi-determined person who is willing to show up at the office of Hivemapper would get to talk to Ariel that same day. You know,
Yeah, maybe don't do that. Give them a little heads up, but
yeah, like give them a heads up, but at the same
yeah,
time, like it's not like there's a 0% chance. Um,
yeah.
it's more like yeah, if you're respectful and you write in, you're like, hey, I'm going to be in San Francisco next week. I would love to meet up. I've got a question about this one thing. I've also got some ideas about how I could help, and I would love to see the office. I think what you're doing is rad. If you do
Mm.
that, in my experience, I'll be like, yeah, I'm super busy, but I got 30 minutes for you. Let's do this. And that dude is I mean, is kind of leading the charge on making sure that people show up to work in person and do things. So he's all about relationships.
Totally. Yeah.
So super cool stuff. I
Anyway,
don't know what happened, Joey. There's way more people than I've ever seen on this show. So I don't know if it's
I was
us.
watching that number. It's
The
like
fuck is
300
going
something.
on?
Yeah.
Yeah, they say I'm welcome in the office even though I'm a douche. And I mean, 619 just came by the shop the other day to drop off this Karrier One thing. He's not a douche. He's a rad dude. And I think that's true of most people in Deepin. That's certainly true of Joe, of all the folks that I've met. I'm sure there's someone that I've met that I'm like, yeah. Actually, I can think of one dude, like, I just don't get a good vibe from that guy. Um, and I thought he was a fucking child molester. But other than that, 99 point, to 5.9% of Deepin folks I've met are just like, oh, super cool people. So
Yeah. Fun,
dig it.
fun stuff.
Let's,
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to go back to with this, because I know you're super good at looking at things and making sure they work well. And I figure we just spend a little bit of time here. So this is a parking.paleotreats.com. Anyone can see this. I saw a couple things. When I put this up on Cloudflare, like it got hit 800 times an hour. And I think that was a bot thing. I cannot imagine that 800 people an hour are looking to see what the parking spot is at the back lot of Paleo Treats in San Diego.
Hmm.
So it's like an interesting thing. Like when you start entering into these things where you're the one running the infrastructure, you're kind of responsible. There's stuff that happens that mostly gets hidden from you as a network analyzer or if you're not a, professional networker. So that was like,
Right.
part one. And then part two was, I wanted to see like, what did you see on this where you're like, that's kind of cool or that didn't make sense or that's like stupid.
Uh, the occupancy heat map is badass. I want to say it's sad that it's like a little
When
bit
it's
broken
working,
right now.
it is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Uh,
also a big fan of the nerd box, obviously.
yeah.
Like I want to, like I almost want to like click on frame count and see what payloads got me. I'm just like, that's
Oh,
nobody else
cool.
wants to see that, but I want to see that,
No,
right?
no, I think that's the thing is I think there's this piece. I mean, this is kind of my working thesis is that in IoT, there's this piece that some people, and I think of it in this way, and I'm just kind of spitballing. Some people want to see this part of the screen. They just want to know what's happening. They just want to know the information. Is it vacant and occupied? Can I park there, etc.
Mhm.
But there's a lot more people than you would think that want to know the rest of the stuff, that are interested and that want to know, like, hey, not only do they want to know what the RSSI is, but in some cases, they want to know if is negative 81 dBm good or bad.
Mm.
Is 12.5 dB for SNR good?
Mhm.
What is this gateway thing? And I think one thing I would love to do here is make this so that this part you can click on this and then go see that gateway.
Totally. Yeah, pop
So
it into we'll do it into the world coverage view, so you could like see the gateway and the like RF estimate, right?
yeah, yeah. Oh, I
That'd be
guess we
pretty
can do
cool.
that because so this is like the part when I was talking with ChatGPT. It's like, oh, you want to keep everything private. I'm like, no, no, that's not what Helium is about. It's about this idea of let's see. There's the Vons. Oh, there's the mobile. Let's go to IoT. And so you said go to the coverage map.
Yeah, world.helium.com
Mm-hmm.
IoT coverage map. And then if you click on a hex, you'll see all these little gateways show up, and then you can click on a gateway, and then you'll see the RF just for that single gateway.
Oh,
And
I
then in terms
clicked on
of
the
like
wrong
linking
one.
in,
Damn it. That must be
yeah, I
this one.
can see. Um, but then you could just swap out the gateway address in the URL, and you'd get a direct link for every gateway.
Huh. I'm not seeing the gateway, even though I'm sure it's in that hex. Oh, maybe this was from earlier days and I missed whatever it was asserted. Although I don't think so. It should be right where the fucking thing is. Because it's not, it's this goddamn one right here. Ooh, Joey, what's going on with my user experience here? That's it. All right. So that's
Got
the right gateway.
You got it. Okay. I don't know. I'm not looking at the full video feed.
Oh, yeah. You're
I
just
just see
looking at
you.
our stuff.
Yeah.
Due for my off grid for shits and giggles. Oh, not another's coming at us. Ariel's a fucking liar. I don't think that's true. I don't think any of that stuff's true. And I think, hey, one thing this not another 22 is I am 100% willing to entertain your whatever accusations or whatever they're like, hey, this thing is wrong and this thing needs to change. I think that's like that is one of the powers of deepen. When you start calling people names other than like to be funny, that's like that's not cool with me. So if you keep going on that route, I don't see that contributing to the conversation. I'm happy to boot you out. I am more than happy to have you stay here and provide super constructive criticism because that's the way that everything works better. That's the deal. Consider that the shot across the bow. Okay, so hex is covered. 362 hex is covered. Average RSSI of negative 130 dBm. And then I
Mhm.
guess once I go into that hex, oh, it's right on the line, but it's not quite. Oh, I bet what happens is on the sub um, hex of this, it's not actually in this specific hex. It's
Yeah,
in
the
some other
hex
weird hex.
spinning is complicated to say the
Yeah, yeah,
least.
yeah. I remember explaining
Yeah.
that to a shitload of people. Okay,
Yeah.
let's see. And then 619 said to do his off grid. I know it's out here somewhere. How do I turn this part off? Where I've already clicked on one thing, or is that you're not sure?
Oh, well, I don't know what you're clicking on. I
I
gotta
don't know
pull
what
up
you're doing,
YouTube or
Nick.
something.
Yeah, yeah. Let me go back to coverage map. I'll just do it the easy
While
way.
you're pulling that up, I just gotta
Yeah.
like do the throwback here, which is that this map is made possible by the DIMO macaron because it runs on the IoT network.
On the demo
It
stuff. Yeah, yeah.
validates and like allows us to build these models and all of that. So if you're mad about DIMO, just go switch to the macaron because it's got a 3 year whatever
Don't
included coverage, and
don't be
it
that
helps
mad.
build this map.
Don't be mad,
I know,
dude.
yeah.
619. Where's
I'm
your
poking
thing?
the bear right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can be mad
Yeah.
as you want. Fucking come at me. Um. Oh, well, Keenan likes it. This map is glorious. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I think it is glorious.
I don't know where your hotspot is, 619. I thought it was out here. I thought you were just to the east of me, but I don't see it. I don't see the hotspot. So maybe it's down. And I forget the name of your hotspot. Oh, it's east even more? I don't think so, but I'll check. So I think
We're
here's
going
one thing
into
is that each time you've got to do this. I wonder if I do a hotspot map. There we go. I'll figure it out this way.
northeast. If
East
he
and north. Oh,
slaps
you're up here.
a a pub key in here, you just drop that into the URL bar for
Square
the
onyx
gateway.
scallop. I don't think that's it, but it might be this glorious powder shrimp. Not really recently awarded. No, it's not going to be that. Neither of them recently rewarded. That's north and
I don't know.
east. I don't see anything else out here, unless it's right off the 79, which I don't think is true. I think it's one of these
No,
two.
I'm locked in here. Give us a name.
Oh, glorious powdered shrimp. Okay, it is that one. No, looks. I mean, this is like the pain in the ass with off grids is that they don't always work as well as you want. Update that map, Joey. Immediately, Joey. Get on glorious powder shrimp and fix this thing.
Yeah, what
uh,
something's like what is going on here?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'll check the recording, figure this out.
Yeah, I may do something with I've actually just been thinking about doing this on the MeteoScientific stuff, is just going through how to use the Explorer, which means that I'll have to figure it out how to use it a little bit better. One thing I showed this to Dimitris Mamalis at Kudzu, is I was showing him this thing where you can change like, hey, this is the coverage that you get at 93 dBm versus at 125 or 130, whatever it is. He's like, dude, that's awesome. I'm using that for Kudzu. It's like,
Mm.
oh, it's
That was that was intended exactly for the sensor deployers because they everyone does that a little differently. Some people would be like, I need spreading factor 8 coverage. I need spreading factor like nobody thinks about that, right?
yeah,
Yeah, I need indoor, I need outdoor. So it's just like just this little slider, I think, covers all those bases.
it's pretty cool. It's pretty good. And if you're a nerd, you're
Um,
like, wow, at 112, you get that coverage. That's impressive.
yeah. Anyway, we got off the track of the loves and the hates of the parking thing. Um, One of the things I was going to add that I've done on some sensors in the past is a pie chart breakdown of the gateways that were responsible for doing the data transfer. Um, and you, oh, did I just lose your audio? Or did you lose your audio?
I put myself on mute because I was busy.
There you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Okay, go ahead.
but
So pie
but
chart of
it
the
can be cool to sort
hotspots.
of see like, yeah, what gateways are sort of covering, where the redundancy came from, like that kind of stuff.
How do I do that? Because the packet that comes through from the device only tells me the hotspot that transferred it. I know there's something on
Mhm.
the blockchain side where I can see like these are all the ones that heard it, but I don't know how to do that.
You could, if you crank up your multi-buy, you would get all of that metadata in your payload.
Okay.
Um,
Ooh, and I would get I'd probably spend more DC um on Dune and claw my way up the rankings.
yeah,
Uh,
just a little bit. Um,
yeah. I should do multi-buy on some of my stuff because I think
yeah,
the Metsai burn. Oh, this is MeteoScientific DC burn. There's another one that is. What's the other
I mean,
Dune I have?
honestly, I would encourage people when they're starting to develop a device or a solution, basically
Hmm.
put that multi-buy at like 10 or 20 or something. Just don't worry. The cost difference at small scale is entirely negligible. When you
Yeah,
start scaling up into the thousands of devices or whatever, sure, go optimize. But when you're operating and starting to build that solution and you're like, why did my payload not go through? You know, like whatever, like just have that data available.
yeah.
Incredibly valuable. Um, that's my pro tip for the day for sensor builders. Like
Is
just put that
multi-buy.
multi-buy up a little bit. Just
Ooh,
don't
and
worry
if I
about
do
it.
multi-buy and I double 212, I could have more DC burn than the Helium Foundation.
Oh, look at that. Okay. Yeah.
I
Well,
could
you
I
got to
could
do that
really.
for like a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I would have to. It's a good point. Although I
Yeah.
think no, I'm not one of the power users on the MetSci console. There's actually a couple folks who buy a shitload.
Yeah. I think you've got some big accounts over there. But
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That was funny with 619. You do this right now, Joey, for me.
Update the map? Yeah,
Yeah.
I gotta go see what's going on there.
That is
Uh,
good.
if he's not showing up on the map, it's because that gateway hasn't transferred data for a macaron, or when it did transfer data for a macaron, the expected RSSI didn't match what we actually observed from that data transfer. So he might have gotten thrown out just because he's like up on a hilltop and it's like our algorithm said like, hey, this RSSI is actually way higher than we were expecting, so we don't include it on the map.
Yep.
And
And
that's just a move of being conservative about what we show.
yep. And this is I mean, super common question. I had the same thing. Does that map only do DIMO or does it use all sensors?
Just DIMO today. We've had some conversations with WeatherXM. It's not as great of a data source, A, because it only does the GPS payload a couple times a day, maybe once a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, those gateway, they don't move.
Right.
So DIMO's been like sort of an optimal user or a sort of a, for us to, we are the user of their data. We, like we understand it that way.
Yep.
Um, if we could go get like UPS or FedEx or DHL or something to put a tracker on every vehicle, I'd do that all day long. That would be beautiful.
I asked my
Um,
FedEx guy if I could put a tracker on his vehicle yesterday. And he's like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, dude, so I know where the fuck you are and when you're going to pick up.
right? Yeah, just
Like,
give him one of these. He can throw it in his shirt pocket.
yeah.
Know what he's up to.
No,
Know
I
where
mean,
he lives. Like,
I always have these ideas. I'm like, I'm going to go around and just track all the USPS vans because I want to see where they're going. But that's just a
mhm,
curiosity. And I think doing that would get me in a ton of trouble because I could go do the oysters and just glue them onto the top of those trucks. I don't think they would find it, but I'm also
yeah,
pretty sure that's super legal. So,
yeah, probably. Um, this always comes up. 619's talking about TrackPack and
hmm
try to get some other mapper sources. The macaron
whoops.
tends to be an ideal one because it is permanently attached to the vehicle. Um, those
Mm,
cars generally don't fly, right? Like they have a relatively consistent attenuation from the vehicle body. So it's a very stable data set to work with. Whereas you start moving to devices like these, they end up in a variety of scenarios. Some people put it high, some people put it down low. The same reason we don't use the Helium Mapper project data for this because it's a little bit more wild of a data source. So
yeah.
that's where, if we were going and putting a permanently affixed thing to a bunch of UPS trucks, and I knew they were always in the same place in the same type of vehicle, all that kind of stuff, that would be that's valuable.
That'd be super cool. Oh, interesting. I wonder if there's like fleet contracts, but it's also like lower priority because at the end of the day, you can just figure it out on your own. This is more like a useful thing for someone new to Helium. It's not so much
Yeah,
something that a professional deployer will rely on every time and not just build their own.
right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. For our coverage map, it's tough because like some countries don't have any sort of mapping going on. Like South America is completely unrepresented, and there's a lot of coverage there. Um,
Is it
so,
really? Huh.
oh yeah, Colombia's got a whole bunch, and
What's good?
Brazil.
There's nothing in Baja. Come on, Baja, get with the program.
Baja, Mexico.
Let's see. If I go to
There's some
130.
stuff. I mean, that's where Jameson's out there doing all this fish tracking and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But I
Cabo's
thought
got a bunch of hotspots, but
Cabo's got a couple. I remember I actually did some consulting for people who are doing this at their like um, Airbnbs or whatever. I
mhm,
will put a shout out for Baja. Like, don't go there. I mean, no, go there because it's fucking rad. It's super awesome. It's super rough. It's like the last wild place that's easy to get to, and that's my take on it. Um,
yeah,
I've got so many fucking rad stories from Baja. It's such a cool place. But I wanted to look at South America. Oh, there's nothing down there, huh?
oh yeah,
In BA, nothing. No, I'll be damned. I know there's people down there. I've talked to them, but you're just saying that there's
yeah.
not demos down there.
Yeah, well, and like all that stuff in Guyana, I've talked to those deployers. That's that's all real coverage out there. I think
Hmm.
they did Lamppost or something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, always
yep.
more work to be done. What's going on up here? Oh, Puerto Rico, of course. Crushing. And what kind of coverage is that where it's just half? Oh, okay. It's just the map not rendering totally right. Interesting. That's a weird pattern. I mean, not a weird pattern, but just interesting pattern. So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, there's many things to look
Yeah.
at. It's 10 o'clock, Joe. I don't want to take any more of your time. Thanks to everybody who ended up watching. I'm not sure where all of you came from. Usually this is a pretty small show. Today it felt like a bigger show. Yeah, make
Yep.
something. Let's see. Let's do our shout out for Kevin.
Sure.
Make something every
Yeah.
day. Go to the links down in the description. Do all the usual stuff you do. And I think we'll
Or
see you
just go
next
make
week.
something.
Yeah. Dude, I'm so
Yeah.
fucking psyched on sewing stuff. I signed up for a local community college course on sewing clothing construction. It starts September,
Awesome.
goes through December. I'm fucking pumped to make shit.
Uh,
So, all
Crush
right,
it.
killers. Rock and
All
roll.
right.
Thanks, Joey. We're out.
Have a good one.